Good morning, ninth grade class. Welcome to Western Civilization number 1. I'm Mr. List, and today, on this Monday of the beginning of a new week, we will start at the appropriate place for a beginning, which is early man, early humans, early civilization. Those that we've come to discover and of the earliest of peoples that we know and understand to this point. We're going to look at the scientists behind the learning about those early humans and look at the stuff they had, the tools they used, the things both that they made, as well as things that they just adapted and adopted for their purposes with one really major goal in mind, a goal that is a common thread throughout human civilization, the goal to survive and the goal to improve as people. So we'll take a look at that. Before we jump into those objectives and the specific content for the day, first you had an assignment to do for this week, a memorization and resuscitation, but you're going to do that on paper today instead of out loud or in front of the class for one another. I'm passing out the handout at this time that will have the quote you were assigned minus certain keywords for that quote, and you will have 10 minutes to think about it and fill it out and turn it in. Begin now. All right, all those are handed in. Thank you very much. And real quickly, let's reflect on what that quote was by one of the great leaders, speakers, thinkers of our 20th century, Dr. Martin Luther King, who said, "Human progress is neither automatic nor inevitable. Every step toward the goal of justice requires sacrifice, suffering, and struggle, the tireless exertions and passionate concern of dedicated individuals." And that quote goes along perfectly, wonderfully with our subject matter of the day and of this week. Watching these earliest of humans have to fight through the challenges and adversities of their natural environments and come up with new solutions and mechanisms and schemes to overcome those challenges. And that seems to speak to who we are. And we'll circle back around to that as a main point by the end of our lesson time today. So now let's move forward and jump in. If you will, you notice there's a backpack at each of your desks, and there are things in that backpack. I've already put you in pair groups to work with a partner. You and your partner are going to take your backpack, open it up, and begin to unload and unpack. And you'll find certain unique items, and your job is to determine what those items are for, why they were used or invented, and how that could have made a difference in the quality of life for those early humans. Ready? Begin. All right, very good. So we'll have a little bit of a discussion on what you found and what insights and observations and conclusions you have come up with regarding those specific items. Let's share those at this time. All right, now I'm going to discuss with you some of the key and most important terms, ideas for this particular unit, for this particular period, and I'll use the PowerPoint to do that. So if you will, please have your notebooks out in order to take notes on some of the most important things. Where there is an important point that I will need you to know, to remember, to learn, because of you'll be assessed in the future, then those are things I'll be very clear to point out to you. It's time to write that down. Otherwise, I simply invite you to listen and learn and observe with me. We're going to talk about prehistory, archaeology, and anthropology and the difference in those two. We're going to explore the methods by which those scientists, archaeologists, and anthropologists employed in order to understand how old something is, or perhaps what it is altogether, and certainly how it was used. And then we're going to methods such as radiocarbon dating, thermoluminescence, different microscopic analysis of certain organic remains, materials. We'll talk about the difference in what artifacts and fossils are, and make sure we can distinguish between those as well. All right, students, at this time, will you close your notebooks, put your pens down, in order to kind of reinforce what we've just discussed, what I've just presented and we've talked about. I want you to watch this film clip. This film clip is going to give you more insight and further understanding about these very themes, concepts, terms that we've been discussing over the last few minutes. So please quietly observe the film. Thank you so much for paying attention, for listening, and let's just talk a little bit for a moment about what you heard in the film that reinforced what we've already talked about, or perhaps something new and different that you and I had not brought up as of yet in our discussion that the film emphasized that helps us better understand this subject matter. All right, students, at this time I want you to return to your pair share groups. So turn to that neighbor that I assigned you to beforehand for this next segment of class. This is the self-discovery segment. I've given you worksheets with specific sections of the unit, of the chapters from our text that we're using for this particular unit, this era of early humans. And you are to work on that particular area, which I've assigned each of you as pairs to read and discuss between you and make talking points so that you can each present to the rest of the class when it is your turn. And we'll do that. I'll give you 15 minutes to read, to discuss, to formulate some very well thought out talking points so that you can present those to the rest of class. Ready? Begin. So you did a wonderful job presenting who the Leakeys were, a significant couple of early scientists in the earlier 20th century, and their findings at the Olduvai Gorge, as well as the other scientists that you discussed as well. Nice work. Way to go categorizing Homo habilis, Homo erectus, Homo sapiens, recognizing those distinctions between each of those early humanoid groups, and seeing the adaptations and evolutions of man over time due to changes in the way they behaved and approached the challenges of their environments. Now we're going to debrief. Let's talk about everything we've learned to this point, and I'll present a few things to remember. Then you are able to ask me questions to make sure we're all on the same page and have a clear understanding of what was important to take away today. In a moment, I'm going to allow you one final pair share opportunity to write your reflections on everything we've talked about today. I hope you feel like you know a little bit more today about early humans and the tools they used than you did when we began class today. But let's get our journals out so that we can note the point. Because here's the main thing I really want you to take from today. Yes, important for us to understand these early civilizations, where they started, what they accomplished, what they went through. But more than anything, let's talk about what it tells us about humanity itself. And here is the point, that it took the virtues of determination, of innovation, of cooperation for early humans to survive those primitive environments. By applying these virtues, humans did more than survive. They certainly improved. And we'll continue to watch for that theme as we move through the year into different eras and different peoples and their environments, their circumstances. Watch how humans rise above the great challenges by applying these certain fundamental virtues. Thank you so much for paying attention and your cooperation.